Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name's Toni and I am a homeschooling mom to 1, 2, 3, 4 little monkeys. And they are going to be in the video today. Today we're talking about our history that we're doing this year, which is called BIBLIOPLAN. And I was going to do a little review now that we've been doing this for a couple months now. So I will be showing you guys an in-depth close-up of the inside of the book. I will also show you the family guide that we use. I will show you the Handson Maps that we use. And I also have another booklet like this that has questions. Those are called cool history questions? Or cool history for middles or something like that. I will show you guys that book too. But I thought I'd let you guys sit in on a little bit of our history lesson just to see how this works and in real life. So if you want to see us do a history lesson, stay tuned. Okay, so we are using the book Remember the Days, which is a history for junior readers, 2nd edition, and we are doing medieval days this year. We are going to read from, we're on page 69. Everybody see? So we usually sit like this so that this book is full of all kinds of pretty pictures. It also has little definitions throughout that I will have the girls read. He usually doesn't join us. He's just goofing off usually. But I have everybody sit here so that we can work together and they can read, and I feel like that keeps them interacting and not just looking off out the window and stuff. So today we're reading about Attila the Hun. Okay, so what do you guys remember about the Huns? We read about them yesterday. Do you guys remember? They were in the movie The Night in the Museum. So this says right here, the Huns didn't come to Gaul looking for new homes. Instead, they came looking for a new people to plunder. Annabelle, what does plunder mean?
To plunder is to steal in
wartime. So they went to these different cities to steal their stuff. And when they did that, do you think they ever hurt anybody or killed anybody? Yeah, they didn't care who they hurt or who they killed. So it says, whenever the Huns moved into a new place, their first step was to raid a few cities and towns, killing men, women, and children alike. After everyone nearby was thoroughly terrified, the Huns offered them 2 options. Do you guys remember this? They could either give the Huns a lot of money and goods, or else they had to be ready for a fight. Faced with a choice between paying tribute or fighting the Huns, most cities chose to pay. And what was a tribute? Sienna, what was a tribute? Read that nice and loud.
A tribute was a set amount of money or goods that a conquered people had to pay their conquerors every month or every year.
Yeah, so people would usually agree to that because they didn't want to get hurt by the Huns. So they would be paying this money really probably for the rest of their lives, which stinks just because they didn't want to fight those people. Okay, so now that we've refreshed on that, we're going to read about Attila the Hun. So the most dangerous Hun of all was the most famous Attila the Hun, who was born around 405. Attila and his brother Bleda inherited the Hunnic Empire from their uncle who died in 434. 13 years later, Bleda died too, maybe of natural causes or maybe because Attila murdered him. Either way, Bleda's death left Attila on top. At the time, the Huns lived mainly in the east, just north of the Eastern Roman Empire. That changed in 450 when an unusual letter drew Attila's attention from east to west. The letter came from the older sister of a Western Roman emperor called Valentinian III, a troubled woman called Honoria. Honoria suffered from 2 big troubles. The first was she liked to flirt with men, a fault that deeply embarrassed her emperor brother. To stop with the embarrassment, Valentinian sent Honoria to a nunnery while he tried to find a husband for her. So what's a nunnery? We have read about monasteries, which is where who lives?
Monks.
So what's a nunnery? Where
the nuns live?
the nuns live. Yeah, where the nuns live. So he sent her to a nunnery because she kept flirting with all the guys, and he's going to try to find her a husband. To keep Honoria out of trouble, Valentinian arranged for her to marry a rather dull member of the Roman Senate. The fun-loving Honoria wanted nothing to do with this dull senator, but her brother insisted. With nowhere else to turn, Honoria turned to someone with the power to frighten his emperor brother. In 450, Honoria wrote a pleading letter to Attila the Hun of all the people, asking him to marry her. As a token that her letter was sincere, Honoria sent her engagement ring along with it. Wow, so she like proposed to him and sent him an engagement ring. To Valentinian's horror, Attila took Honoria's foolish offer seriously, saying that he wanted to marry Honoria, but he wouldn't marry her for nothing. Like many husbands in those days, Attila demanded a bride price called a dowry. The dowry Attila wanted for Honoria was a rather large one, half of the Western Roman Empire. Liliana, what is a dowry?
A dowry was the money and property of a bride in her marriage given to the groom by the father or brother who gave away the bride.
Okay, so I think a lot of times that would be some sort of livestock, or it would be like, oh, you can have sheep and then you can have maybe this piece of land. Well, he wanted half the Western Roman Empire. Naturally, Valentinian refused to pay such a ridiculous dowry. The emperor's refusal was all the excuse Attila needed. In 451, Attila led a huge Hun army in the Western Roman Empire. His first target was Roman Gaul, where he immediately started burning cities and killing innocents. So what is this a picture of? Sienna, can you read that?
Attila and his hordes overrun Italy.
And that's by artist Eugene Delacroix. To defend Gaul, Valentinian sent Flavius Aetius, the same Roman general who had defeated Gundahar back in 437.
Sometimes I let the girls read, so Sienna's going to read this little section here. Go ahead.
So, one of the best known cathedrals in the world stands on an island in Paris. The Isle de la Cité Hearts, the Seine River.
You got the one with French words.
Yes, the big river that flows through Paris. This is the home of the big cathedral called Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. French for, okay, among other things,
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is famous for its many
Gargoyles. Look at the pictures. Those are gargoyles. Can you see?
Yeah.
Point to the
I like
gargoyles.
those guys. Those are creepy. I think he broke his back.
Okay, keep reading.
A gargoyle is a gruesome statue that doubles as a spout to carry rainwater away from the building's foundation.
Okay, so all three of my girls are right now working on this book, Cool History for Middles, which has questions, and it also has, every once in a while, it has some fun. I'll just flip through this so you guys can see. The cool part is I bought one of these, Cool History for Middles, and it says all the content in these pages is copyrighted material owned by BiblioPlan for families. Therefore, when you skip down here, it says BiblioPlan does allow copying within the family. Families may make as many copies of this material as they need to use within their own family. So, the cool part is, if I'm just using this for my family, instead of buying 3 different books of these, I just bought one. And I photocopy whenever we're going to do pages. It's got some Giants of Faith thing, which we actually are not doing that part. You can pick and choose what you want to do. So in this book, there's questions at the end of each week. So this says BiblioPlan Year 2, Week 1, Companion Class Time Reading Globe or Map. So this just tells you which week you're on, and then these are the questions that they can do. It's also got optional bonus activity, which we don't do. It also tells you for the Giants of Faith part, but we don't do that either. So we just do these questions, and we've done it both ways, where sometimes we've done it orally, and sometimes we've done it where I print out a piece of, I print out a copy of this, and I give one to each of my big girls. So week 2, they've got questions there. Week 3, they've got questions. And then they've got a page where you can do the Celtic cross that we learned about. There's week 4 has questions, so it's the same It's the same setup for each week, and it's just kind of like a quiz, but they're just answering questions. So this is what we're doing this week. So what I did, I don't make my second grader do this because I think this would just be too much for her. So my fourth grader and my sixth grader both do these questions and they work together. But if they have something fun like this, my second grader is doing this today. So I just gave her this word search and it's got all these different words that we were discussing this week. And so you just continue on, and this book is full of questions, and every once in a while they've got one of those fun pages. So it's basically just a way to make sure that they're actually understanding and grasping some of the concepts that you talk about and some of the historical facts that you talk about throughout the week. And this goes all throughout the year. There's a crossword puzzle. So there's not a whole lot of the fun pages. Most of these are just questions. So that was the main reason why I got it. But every once in a while, they have those fun ones that I'll give to my younger daughter. My big girls would do it if they had time, but we don't have time to do that too. So, okay. So I'll show you how they're working on it. So here is my second grader, Annabelle, working on her crossword puzzle. Do you like that, Annabelle? Okay. And then here are my two big girls. So they've got the book open here. I let them answer the questions if they know the answers, but they're also allowed to search through the book and find the answer. I don't mind them having to look it up as long as they find the answer. So they're working together doing that. So what question are you guys on?
Number 4.
What is it?
How long did the Burgundian Empire last?
Okay, so see if you guys can find that. And since these questions go in order, you know this is going to be probably at the beginning of the chapter. So you don't need to go flip through too much. The nice thing is they do their questions in order.
I can't find go.
Okay. Find a G and look around that.
There's Burgundian.
Okay, so that's probably where your answer is going to be. So both of you look through there and see if you can find your answer. Okay, so while they're working on that, I'm going to show you inside the family guide. This is another option that is really great I think it's really neat to order. It's the complete lesson plans and book list for a 30-week literature-based study. If you like to do read-alouds, and this is for K to 12, if you like to do read-alouds, then this thing is pretty awesome. So what I did is I tabbed some of these things. I don't know if you can see those little tabs that I put in there, because having to flip back and forth was getting kind of annoying trying to find my pages. So I tabbed the different pages that we needed. Here I've got the scheduled book list for grades K through 8 for the entire year. So it breaks it down. It breaks it down by level. So here's readers K through 2 and some 3 through 5. And this it tells you whether it's got it as an audio book. It tells you what grade it's for. So if you see here, like this book, Patrick, Patron Saint of Ireland, which is one of the ones we got, is for K through 2 or 3 and older. So it really could be for probably any of the elementary age. But it breaks it down for each unit. So that was for Unit 1. Then, if you want to look at those specific books and decide if those are best for you, we have, those are the read-alouds. Let me find it. Then we've got, so here we have the annotated book list for Unit 1, Early Christianity and the Rise of Islam, weeks 1 through 7. So this is all like a close-up of Unit 1. So then you can come down here and find the book right here, Patrick, Patron Saint of Ireland, tells you which week it's in, and then it gives you, most of these have a nice little summary. So this one's just a real quick, it says a perfect read for little kids about the fascinating life of St. Patrick. But some of these have a much bigger little summary about, it tells you even how many pages it is. So, this one says 40 pages, this one says 32 pages. So these are usually pretty short reads, but this is for K through 2. And it goes on. So if you went back to that first section, you would just go to, that's why I think it helps to have the tabs. So like I said, this one's got, you would just go to Unit 2 if you're in grades K through 2. And then for like my other daughter, this is readers 3 through 5 and some 5 through 8, it's broken down by unit. So Unit 1, these are the books for those kids. Unit 2, you'll just come in here and you'll pick which one this is, but this goes all the way up through, there's readers 5 through 8 and 8 plus. They've got read alouds here. This section is all read alouds that you can use for your family. It's just so nice how it's broken up by unit. So this is Unit 1 here, Unit 2 here. You do not want to do all this because it would be really overwhelming. So you just pick one read aloud and get through it that way. You don't have to do a read aloud for every single unit either. If you don't want to, or you have a read aloud in your language arts or for some other subject or something, you don't need to do a read aloud. This is all up to you, but it has so many options. This breaks down the scheduled book list for grades 8 through 12 for the entire year. So they do have this 8 through 12. It's just in a different section. Okay, so here is another section that I tabbed, which is optional resources. And this has movies. So this had, like, for the first week, The Tale of Despereaux was one of the ones that was an option. So we checked that out from the library. So it's got all kinds of, it says most of these movies are available on PureFlix, Amazon, or Netflix. We actually just checked it out from the library. But they've got all these if you want to add in some movies. There's free online videos, which we haven't done yet, but that's an option there too. There's some audio things here. And there's even music, which we haven't done that either. There's so much to choose from that you'll never do all this, and you shouldn't, because you'll overwhelm yourselves unless all you're doing is history, which I don't think anybody's just doing history. Here's some free downloads here. And then this other part that I tabbed, this is Unit 1, weeks 1 through 7, Early Christianity and the Rise to Islam. And this is memory work. So, and this says here, BiblioPlan does not recommend memorizing everything on this list. Instead, we recommend choosing one or more memory topics based on your students' ages and interests. So it's got Psalms, or it's got different Bible things you can memorize. It's got the Apostles' Creed. It's got a bunch of different things that you can memorize here if you like to do memory work in your homeschool. But like I said, you don't have to do it. We're not doing any of these memory things right now just because we couldn't handle it, because we've got a lot on our plate. So I've got this part, I put a different tab on this just so that I know this is where my weeks start. So this is how the weeks are set up. So you go through here and it tells you which unit you're on. So this is the Unit 1, the Early Christianity and the Rise to Islam, week 1. So it's got your, if you're using the BiblioPlan book, which is the one that we were reading from this morning, it tells you you're going to be doing chapter 1, and it does break it up so that you know which part to read for each day. The only thing I found super annoying is that it doesn't have pages. All it has is like the heading topics. I'll show you how that looks in the book. If you see here, it would maybe say read the Frankish saints, sorry girls, through Genevieve or something like that. But you have to kind of search through to find that. So I do wish that it had the page numbers on here. If I could give them advice, that's what I would say, because I found it kind of annoying to figure out where your start and your end is. But once you can figure that out, I basically just look at the start here for the day, which what was the medieval era, and then you know that day 2 you're going to start at world history. So we just stop before we get to world history. So anyway. Then you've got the companion textbook, which is the grades 6 through 12, which we don't use. And then they've got hands-on supplements, which most of these we don't use, but they do offer a coloring book. They have Hands-on Europe. They have a discussion guide. They have timeline figures, Giants of Faith. They have another page where they would do discussion guide. Cool history questions is what we do, which I just showed you that my girls are all working on right now. That's just once a week. And then they've got hands-on maps that I will show you too that we do. Then they also have a crafts book and a discussion guide. Out of all those options, the only 2 things we're doing is cool history questions and hands-on maps. I don't even get to it every single week. We try to, but we don't always get to it. It's got a bunch of these other things that are options. The only other thing I got, you are able to read supplemental history if you want to. Some people use Story of the World. It tells you what chapter to read there, or Mystery of History. The only other thing I got, a friend of mine was selling the Kingfisher Encyclopedia, this book right here, for like a couple dollars on the swap site. So on a curriculum site. So I did buy that, but we haven't used it yet. And that is in the back of the book. I think she might have read from it once. Then at the bottom of the page, it does have the literature readings. So I just make a little pencil mark in which daughter was going to read. One of my daughters was going to read this one. So I just put her first initial there. And then what I was going to have my second daughter read, I actually wrote that in there. Some of these books I did have trouble getting from the library, but they say you can get most of them. I don't know. Some of these were older. I think this Twice Freed I had trouble finding at the library. But they've got your 5 through 8 options and your high school options. And these, you read them as you want. If you want them to read a little bit every day, that is just up to you. It doesn't schedule it out for you. Then they have the family read alouds on the next page that tells you what book you're supposed to get. That book I had trouble getting too, so I got a different one. It does have writing prompts that you can do, which we haven't done yet, but it breaks it down to the levels. Like a young writer, I guess grammar would be, I'm not sure what age that is, but that would be like a middle grade maybe. And then maybe logic is high school. I'm kind of guessing. I don't know exactly what grades those are. But we haven't done that yet. I would have just picked what would work for my girls. Then there's the hands-on map ideas, activities, and then optional reading resources. So this whole 2-page spread is what you would have for week 1. And you just pick what you're going to do. They have it scheduled for 3 days a week. You could read smaller sections and do it 5 days a week if you wanted. You could probably make it 2 days a week. The sections are pretty long. In my opinion, it would be really hard to combine into 2 days a week unless your kids have a really good attention span. I think 3 days a week is the least that we could do it, at least for our family. This would be week 2, same exact setup. It's just got, you're reading chapter 2 here instead. And you just do what you can do. And it just goes all the way through. So it goes to 34 weeks. It's got 34 weeks of history. And at the end of the book, see, this was the one I was talking about, that Kingfisher Encyclopedia that I got. They just have it broken down here that, like for week 1, that's what she's reading for day 1, that's what she's reading for day 2, and that's day 3. And it doesn't have it all 3 days every time. But that's kind of a cool book. I'll show you guys that one. So this is the Kingfisher Encyclopedia. It says more than 3,500 indexed references, over 2,000 full-color illustrations, and it's chronologically themed entries. So it's just a cool encyclopedia. Lots of colors. It's not necessary at all, but if you want to just have a more in-depth study, if you have an older child, I believe this was for maybe recommended for grades 5 or 6. My daughter's in 6th grade, but it just gives them a little extra look into it. It's got a timeline at the top of the page, which is kind of cool. So it tells them what part of the timeline this is, but it's just a cool full-color encyclopedia. Just a nice reference book. But I think this is neat to have. I need to make sure we're doing this more often. So here is a look at the main textbook. It's called Remember the Days, History for Junior Readers, 2nd edition. And this is for the medieval days. So I will just give you a little peek inside of this. It's a really nice, colorful, it's just full color. It's really nice. They've got a table of contents here. And then they just have lots of nice colors. They have lots of nice pictures throughout the book. They've got definitions, which I love with having little ones. They've always got definitions. So what I do is we read through here, and then I have my kids read this. So I might read, I'll read the paragraph about this, and then I'll pick one of my kids and say, okay, can you read this box about what a barbarian actually is? Or, we get down here and I keep reading, and then I'll pick maybe my youngest one and say, okay, can you read what morals are? And they'll read it to us. And then, I have them read the sentences underneath of the pictures. It keeps them engaged because history can get a little, it's easy to tune out if you're not like a major history lover. But it's got lots of pictures. It's broken up. A lot of times the sections are broken up with little crosses like that. And let's see. So this is chapter 1. So they always have a world history section with the date there. Then there's some more with pictures. There's another definition. That just gives you an idea of what it's like. It's got lots of paintings, photographs of paintings in here. There's another definition there. There's a little definition of symbols of world power. Then when you turn the page, they have another section here that talks about Roman warriors' equipment, which I would still have. I had one of each of my girls read what's underneath of one of these pictures. There's another thing here, and it's separated there. So anyway, it's nice how it's broken up, and it's not just black and white print all throughout. I feel like it's very engaging and keeps your attention span. There's maps throughout, which we talk about too. There's another definition. They always have a section on church history. So this talks about the early Christian church, the persecution of early Christians. There's another person we talk about. There's some more a painting and some more pictures talking about church history. There's symbols of the Pope. There's another definition there, another definition there. So I love that there's definitions because you're not just expected to know what all these words mean. Then we're talking about Constantine the Great. They talk about what this symbol is. Come over here and talks about world geography. So each section is broken up like that. Now we're on to chapter 2. So the chapters are not short. That's why when I explained earlier that I really think 3 days is about the amount of time that you could do, that you could break this up. I think unless you have kids that are really attentive and can sit for a long time, this is a lot of information packed in here, but it's very good. I have a 2nd grader, a 4th grader, and a 6th grader that all sit still to listen to this, and it's really good. So everything that's in those cool history questions that I showed before all come from these chapters. It all comes from this book. So I'll just do a quick flip through, but all the chapters look like that, where they've got the world history, then they've got church history. Let me find the church history again, just to show you on another one. There's church history there, and then it will have geography. So that just gives you an idea of what it looks like. It's really good. I really love this. It's a nice hardback book. I'll just do a little flip through. That's what page we're on now. Just so you can kind of see. There's pictures all throughout. And I just think it's very engaging. Whether you're a history lover or not, I'm learning right along with my kids because I didn't pay attention a whole lot in history in high school. So I don't remember a whole lot. So we're learning this stuff together, which is fun. So I would definitely recommend this. I like this. This is a really good book. So the last thing is the Handson Maps. That's the last thing that we ordered. This is for middles. Be real careful when you order from their website to make sure you're getting the right level, because it'll say for middles. I think it's also littles, and then I don't know what the next one's called, but look at the age group. So this is 34-week study for grades 2 through 8. So you've got to make sure. I don't have my 2nd grader doing the maps because she has geography. They all have geography mixed in with their language that we use, but I just didn't think it was necessary for her this year. So I'll probably have her do it next year. But see, it's just, they just give you these maps. It tells you what to label. You don't even have to have them do all this stuff if you don't want them to. But I just have them do everything here. They do it on their own, and then they show me at the end. And they've got a nice colorful map. So we've only done this a couple times. But it's kind of cool. And it's very straightforward instructions as to what they're supposed to do. They always have a little challenge. We don't do that, but they always have a challenge that you could do maybe for older kids or if your kids want to. So we didn't do week 3 or week 4. I believe we're in week 5 today. So that's the map book.
So that's BiblioPlan. We love it. And I just am so glad that I was brave enough to step out and try something new, because I've heard of this years before and I just hadn't heard enough people that I knew talk about it or had used it, and so I was kind of afraid to try it. It's great. So I would highly recommend this book. I would highly recommend this curriculum. I can imagine their other years are just as good. So just a little review. So this one, if you're gonna get what I got, this one is called the Remember the Days book. Then this was the family guide that I talked about. All these are optional, remember. And then there's Cool History for Middles, and that was the book that had questions in it. It's kind of like a quiz, but you don't grade it. And then there's Maps, and that's the one thing that you definitely want to go ahead and get one for each of your kids that are going to be doing it. But there's tons of options on their website, so you can get as much or as little as you want. And it's just great. I love being able to learn history that shows the events in history alongside with Bible history events, and they're intertwined. And I just think that's awesome, because there's some curriculums that are, you've got Bible history over here and you've got world history over here, and they do not ever connect. And it's cool to be able to see how it really happened and how everything connects. So this is great. I love it. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with us and seeing how we do a lesson. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do, because I'm gonna start doing this series of Do a Lesson with Us. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. Thanks for watching. See you next time.